Chapter 2: Planning and Investigation of Hydropower Projects. Planning studies include all type of investigation performed to determine the desirability of carrying out a project. Planning studies generally grouped in three main categories. They are reconnaissance, pre-feasibility, and feasibility study. DOE has been prepared study guidelines of hydropower projects. The guidelines have described the depth of analysis, coverage, and requirements of testing and observations for following different categories and types of hydropower projects. Hydropower project size: 1 MW to 10 MW, 10 MW to less than 100 MW and greater than 100 MW. Types of project: runoff river, ROR, storage, poundage, reservoir. The additional study requirements for underground structures have been given in the study guidelines. Hydropower project planning studies. 2.1 Hydropower project planning stages: reconnaissance, pre-feasibility, and feasibility studies. 2.1.1 Reconnaissance study. Reconnaissance is the first stage of project planning. It is mainly based on secondary data from maps, aerial photographs, and reconnaissance, just walk thorough field visit, eye observation. It is conceptual design of the project based on preliminary assessment of topographical, geological, and hydrological parameters. This study is mainly for license acquisition purpose, looking for access road, transmission line, location of powerhouse and intake site. The alternative schemes are studied to select the most suitable project. 18. Alternatives based on the tentative cost estimate. The tentative cost estimate is based on major items and lump sum basis considering experience of similar projects. Major steps and activities in this stage are: A. Data collection; B. Desk studies; C. Field work and design; D. Estimates and schedules; E. Environmental and social studies; F. Economic assessment; G. Report. Screening and ranking of project during reconnaissance. The hydrological risk is further divided into subcategories. The basin with the gauging station is given more points. The presence of GLOF reduces the point. The presence of a snow cover area adds a point in selection because the snowmelt plays an important role in maintaining the flow in dry season. Similarly, the area with good geology, i.e. strong rock, gets higher weightage points. The presence of faults reduces the point while the area with seismicity issues gets lower points. Environmental risks can be broken down into various subcategories. If more settlements are affected by the project, it gets lower points. Agriculture coverage in project with more than 50% area gets lowest weightage. Similarly, the higher presence of forest in project area assigns lower weightage to the project. 19. 1. 2.1.2 Pre-feasibility study. In this level of study, the review of the study made in reconnaissance studies with further detail field surveyed data and observations obtained from precise instruments, data series of long time and detail investigation. General layout, showing location of the structures in maps or drawings, of the selected alternative sites of the project components with design of civil structures carried out using the topographical maps prepared at larger scale. 5 m contour interval for whole project area and 1 m contour interval in major components like weir and intake, descending basin, headrace canal, for bay/surge tank, penstock, and powerhouse with tail race and switch yards. Major steps and activities in this stage are: A. Data collection. Collection of available hydrological data, meteorological data, correlation of hydrological data to headwork site, study of topographical map, geological mapping, walkover survey. B. Desk studies, review and verify the report prepared in the reconnaissance stage. C. Field work and design, topographic survey, geological survey, hydrological study, preliminary hydraulics calculation using thumb rules, components sizing. D. Estimates and schedules, preliminary costs estimations. E. Environmental and social studies, if IE is necessary TOR should be prepared and if EIA is necessary TOR and scoping work shall be carried out. F. Economic assessment, preliminary cost of project per kWg, report. It should include the firm statement on the suitability of the project and recommendations if any. 2.1.3 Feasibility study. In this level of study, detail analysis of all levels were carried out based on detailed field investigation/observations of long time series to finalize and optimize the components of the power projects. After completion of this study, the power project is ready to implement for construction process. Before construction, detail engineering design is to be carried out to confirm the safety of the structures and bill of quantity, BOQ. Environment study, EIA Environment Impact Assessment or IEE Initial Environment Examination, also need to be completed. Environment study needs to include the impact assessment and mitigation options and measures to minimize the adverse effects on environment. 20. Economical and financial analysis was carried out in details to find EIRR, Economic Internal Rate of Return. Loan payback period considering the cost of project development and benefit gained from the project. The construction schedule and working drawings with cost estimates are prepared in this level of study. Topography, hydrology and geology will play the main decisive role for the selection of final location and capacity of hydropower projects. Major steps and activities in this stage are: A. Data collection, hydrological data from established gauging station, topographic survey, geological and geotechnical tests data, detailed socioeconomic study. B. Desk studies, review of the pre-feasibility report and other relevant study report. C. Field work and design, field trip for layouts and additional survey, field visit for data connection and sampling, detailed investigation for structure location, installed capacity optimization and detailed design of each component. D. Estimates and schedules, detailed cost estimate, detailed schedules and planning. E. Environmental and social studies, detailed IE or EIA report, public hearing, and building harmony with the affected family. F. Economic assessment, financial evaluation, B/C ratio, sensitivity analysis. G. Report. It includes the overall information of the study, conclusion, and recommendation. Types of investigations during planning: topographical survey, geological and geotechnical investigation, seismological investigation, hydrometeorological investigation, sedimentological investigation, construction material investigation. 21. 2.2 Hydrological data processing, mass curve and flow duration curve, Weibull method, their characteristics and its uses in hydropower planning. 2.2.1 Mass curve. It is a graph of cumulative values of a water quantity, runoff, against time. It is an integral curve of a hydrograph. It is also known as ripple curve and made from mean monthly flow records of a stream. Use of mass curve. It is used to facilitate the storage computations and reservoir regulations. The mean monthly flows are summed up consequently and each sum is plotted above the corresponding time up to which the summation has been done. Characteristics of the mass curve. It is continuously rising curve. The slope at any point on the curve represents the inflow rate. If the curve is horizontal, it represents no inflow at that time. Mass curve never fall down. If the curve rises sharply, it indicates the high rate of inflow within that period. Relatively convex rise indicate flood while concave depression indicate drought. Mass demand curve. Mass demand curve is the plot of accumulated demand volume versus time. For the constant demand, the mass demand curve is straight line, while for the variable demand the mass demand curve is increasing nonlinear curve. 22. Determination of storage capacity using mass curve. Draw the mass curve of the inflow. Draw the mass demand curve from highest peak. Draw tangent parallel to the demand line. From lowest trough, draw tangent parallel to the demand line. The maximum vertical ordinate between these two tangents gives the storage capacity of the reservoir that should be provided. Determination of storage capacity for variable demand can also be computed using surplus and deficit method. 2.2.2 Flow duration curve, FDC. Flow duration curve represents the runoff data for the given time as the curve plotted between the percentages of time exceeded along the abscissa and the flow along ordinates. The flow values may be daily, weekly, or monthly. The FDC is prepared by arranging the flows in decreasing order of magnitudes as ordinates and the percentage of time under consideration in which the flow is equaled or exceeded as abscissa. The percent of time exceeding is obtained by cumulative sum of percent of time. 23. Characteristics of flow duration curve. The slope of flow duration curve depends upon the interval of the data. The slope of flow duration curve from daily flow data is steeper than that of average monthly data. Flow duration CU or VE is a decreasing curve. With TE increase in probability OF exceedance, the flow decreases. It means the discharge which has higher probability of exceedance has lower value. Note that Q40-Q60 chronological sequence is disturbed in flow duration curve. With the increase in storage, the flow duration curve becomes flatter. Area under flow duration curve gives flow volume. Environmental flow. The amount of water that must be allowed to flow downstream to fulfill the needs of downstream water users and aquatic lives is called environmental flow. Generally, 5% to 10% of the minimum flow is taken as environmental flow. Uses of flow duration curve. It helps to evaluate the flow expected certain percentage of time. It is useful in planning and designing of water resource projects. Flow duration curve also helps in the design of drainage systems and in the flood control studies. Flow duration curve plotted in log graph provides the qualitative description of the runoff variability in the stream. Probability of exceedance. The probability of a particular parameter being equaled or exceeded during a certain period is known as probability of exceedance. It is calculated by using empirical formula. California formula, P equals B, Weibel's formula, P equals where m equals rank. N equals total data. 24. 2.2.3 Power duration curve, PDC. It is the plot of power versus percentage of time exceedance of discharge. PDC can be plotted in the similar manner once power is calculated using head, H, and available discharge, Q. The area under PDC of a certain period gives the total energy available during that period. 2 Figure 1, Power duration curve. Firm power / primary power. The power that is available 100% of the time is called firm power. It is the power corresponding to the minimum stream flow. Such power can be increased by use of the pondage. The energy corresponding to firm power is called primary energy. Secondary power / surplus power. The power that is available in excess of firm power is called secondary power. The energy corresponding to secondary power is called secondary energy. Spill energy. The amount of water that is spilled due to the limitation of maximum usable flow is called spilled flow. And the energy that could have been produced from the spilled water is called spill energy. A PDC with firm energy, secondary energy, and spill energy is shown below. 25. 3 Figure 2, Power duration curve. 2.3 Reservoir planning and regulations, classification, site selection, need of reservoir regulation, life of reservoirs. 2.3.1 Reservoir. When a barrier is constructed across the river in the form of a dam, water gets stored on the upstream side of the barrier forming a pool of water, is called a reservoir. The water stored in a reservoir may be used for various purposes. Based on specific purpose, reservoir may be classified as storage or conservation reservoir, flood control reservoir, distribution reservoir, multipurpose reservoir. Guiding tables and curves called rule curve or guide curve are prepared by the experts based on the reservoir characteristics, area elevation and storage elevation curve, and the climatic and stream flow characteristics of the inflow river for efficient regulation of the reservoir. Storage characteristics curves of reservoir. The capacity of a reservoir is determined from the contour maps of the area. In general, contour map of 5m interval is prepared from survey / mapping, and then the areas between the two contour intervals are measured by planimeter. 26. The areas of intervening contours at smaller interval of say 0.5m are obtained by interpolating with the surveyed contours using formula square root equals plus, minus. Where A1 and A2 are areas of the reservoir at C1 and C2m contour, i.e. elevation, while A is the area of the reservoir at desired contour level C between the C1 and C2. The storage volume of water between the elevation differences increment H can be computed as follows. Simple mean method increment S equals A1 plus A2 / 2x increment H. Geometric mean method increment S equals increment H / 3, A1 plus A2 plus square root, A1 A2, Prismoidal formula increment S equals increment H / 6, A1 plus 4A2 plus A3. Prismoidal formula is more preferable where 3 consecutive sections at equal height are taken. Increment H is the vertical height between the A1 and A3 contours. The area elevation curve can be represented by general polynomial equations. I equals alpha plus beta h plus gamma h2 plus nhn1. Integration method. When the area elevation curve is integrated, the yield will be capacity elevation curve. It can be used for determination of volume at different height intervals from the general area elevation curve prepared from surveyed contours at large interval. Increment s equals integral a dh equals integral alpha plus beta h plus gamma h2 plus nhn1 dh equals integral alpha plus beta h plus gamma h2 plus nhn1 dh. S equals alpha h plus beta h2 plus gamma h3 plus midline horizontal ellipsis plus nhn plus k, where k is integration constant and equals to the reservoir capacity at datum. The best capacity curve of a reservoir is the one in which the rise to the straight line is the quickest. Such type of curve is obtained for cup-shaped catchment with gentle longitudinal slope. Storage zones of reservoir normal pool level. The maximum level to which the reservoir water surface will rise during normal operating condition is called normal pool level or maximum conservation level or full reservoir level or normal water level. It is equal to the elevation of spillway crest or top of the spillway gates for most of the cases. Minimum pool level, the lowest water surface elevation which has to be kept under normal operating condition in a reservoir. The level is fixed by elevation of the lowest outlet in the dam or may be guided by the minimum head required for efficient functioning of the turbine. 27. Maximum pool level. During high floods, water is discharged through spillway but will cause the water level to rise in the reservoir above the normal pool level. The maximum level to which water raises during worst design flood is known as the maximum pool level or maximum water level or maximum flood level. Useful storage. The volume of water stored in the reservoir between the minimum pool and the normal pool level is called useful storage or live storage. The useful storage may be subdivided into conservation storage and flood mitigation storage in a multipurpose reservoir. Surcharge storage. The volume of the water stored between the normal pool level and maximum pool level. Surcharge storage is an uncontrolled storage because it exists only till the flood is in progress and cannot be retained for later use. Dead storage. The volume of water stored in the reservoir below the minimum pool level is known as dead storage. It is not much used for any purposes under normal condition. Dead storage is usually taken equal to sediment volume during the lifespan of the reservoir. Bank storage. When the reservoir fills up, certain amount of water seeps into the permeable reservoir banks which come out as soon as the reservoir get depleted. This volume of water is known as bank storage. The amount is dependent on the geological formation. It is very small portion of the reservoir volume and not included in the storage capacity curve. Valley storage. Even before the dam is constructed, certain variable amount of water is stored in the stream channel called valley storage. The net increase in storage volume after construction of dam is equal to the storage capacity of the reservoir up to NPL minus the natural valley storage. Valley storage depends on cross-section, length, and water level in the river. 2.3.2 Reservoir regulation. It is defined as rational distribution of river flow in time and space among different field of water resources, like consumptive use field, water supply, irrigation etc., and non-consumptive use field, navigation, water power etc. 2.3.3 Reservoir sedimentation. Every river carries certain amount of sediment load, especially in monsoon. The sediment load of a river can be divided into two types, suspended load and bed load. The suspended 28. Load is that part of the sediment load which is held in suspension against gravity by the vertical component of eddies of the turbulent flow. The suspended load usually consists of fine particles, and the bed load is that part of the sediment load which remains in contact with the bed while moving with water. It consists of relatively coarser particles. 2.3.4 Measures to control reservoir sedimentation. Pre-construction measures. Post-construction measures. Selection of dam site in less erodible catchment. Removal of post-flood water contents high sediment. Not collect post-flood water entering the reservoir through bypass if possible. Construction of dam in stages, making low reservoir capacity inflow ratio below 0.5. Mechanical stirring and excavation to keep it in moving state and help in pushing towards the sluices. Construction of check dams or barrier across the streams contributing major sediment load. Erosion control and soil conservation in watersheds like afforestation, integrated land use and land cover. Vegetation screen to trap large amount of sediment in the catchment and entrance of the reservoir. Checking gully formation, use of improved agricultural methods. Construction of under-sluices in the dam to flush sediment during high-flow season. Not effective for high rockfill dam, stiff requiring mechanical loosening and scouring to increase efficiency. Trap efficiency. It is defined as the percentage of sediment deposited in the reservoir to the total sediment flowing in the river water. It is denoted by eta T. Trap efficiency generally varies from 95% to 100%. For most of the reservoir, it cannot be reduced below 90% even if various silt control measures are adopted. The trap efficiency is a function of the reservoir capacity inflow ratio equals 29. The silting rate in the reservoir will be more in the beginning and it goes on decreasing with passes of time. Small reservoirs in large rivers have less trap efficiency compared to the large reservoir in small rivers, mainly due to the variation of capacity inflow ratio. 2.3.5 Life of reservoir. If the annual sediment inflow is large compared to reservoir capacity, the useful life of the reservoir would be very short. The rate of sedimentation in the reservoir depends on the trap efficiency. Generally, the useful life of a reservoir is considered to be over when its capacity is reduced to about 20% of the designed capacity. That means the effective life of reservoir is over once 80% of the reservoir is filled up by silt. 2.4 Environmental study policy based on type and size, i.e/EIA, with an aim to make development through hydropower a sustainable development. Its effect on the environment is taken into major concern. In order to check whether the proposed project has significant effect on the environment and whether such effects could be avoided or mitigated by any means or not, various studies are carried out at different stages of project planning, which is known as environmental assessment, EA. There are two types of environmental study policy, i.e., initial environmental examination, EIA, environmental impact assessment. 2.4.1 Differences between IE and EIA. EIA generally conducted for small-scale project, generally conducted for large-scale project. Scoping is not required. Scoping is required. Environmental auditing not required. Environmental auditing required. Deals with simple and easily predictable impacts. Also deals with unknown impacts. It is to be approved by concerned authority within 21 days. It is to be reviewed by the concerned body and approved by MOIST. 30. 2.4.2 EIA/AE process in hydropower environmental screening. This process determines whether EIA is required. As per EPR 1997, Environment Protection Rules, all the projects listed in Schedule 2 must undergo EIA. Examples of the projects that require EIA: any hydropower project with a capacity of more than 50 megawatts, transmission line project with 132 kV installed capacity, any project incurring loss of above 5 hectares of forest land, any project that falls under the jurisdiction of the National Park, Wildlife Reserve, Conservation Area, and Buffer Zone declared by GON. Scoping. After it has been determined that EIA is required, scoping is the first process. It is carried out to ascertain the major issues that are likely to arise due to the project implementation. The First Amendment of EPR, Environment Protection Rules, has deleted the provision of scoping in the case of IEE. It involves the following tasks: involvement of relevant authorities, interested parties, and affected groups. Identification of relevant or significant issues to be examined. Identification and selection of alternatives and development of TOR for further studies. Collection of suggestions from the local authorities after 15 days of providing notice to them. TOR, Terms of Reference. TOR provides basic guidelines to conduct project-specific EIA or IE. In EIA, scoping identifies the issues to be addressed, whereas TOR provides a complete guidance on how to address these issues. The contents of TOR should include the critical environmental issues identified in the scoping process. In case of IE, since scoping is not necessary, TOR is the first step. Basically, TOR includes the contents defining what studies will be performed, explaining who will conduct the studies, stating when the studies will be conducted, and outlining the basic structure of IEE. 31. EIA/AE report. IEE report will be reviewed by MON, Ministry of Energy, and in cases where such examination shows the implementation of such proposal will have no substantial adverse effect on the environment, the MON shall grant approval for its implementation. Similarly, EIA report will be reviewed by MON and forwarded to MOEST, Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology. MOEST shall then issue a 30 days public notice in any one of daily newspaper to the general public to make a copy themselves of the report received along with the proposal on their own, or to study it, offering their opinions and suggestions. If the evaluation shows that the project will have no significant effect on the environment, MOEST shall grant approval. 2.5 Climate change and ecology, river engineering, social costs, population displacement, change in lifestyle, global worry, and clean energy alternatives. 2.5.1 River engineering. River morphology is concerned with channel configuration and geometry and with longitudinal profile. It is time-dependent and varies particularly with discharge, sediment input and characteristics, and with bank material. River morphology can be substantially influenced by engineering works, although this influence is not necessarily beneficial. Natural river channels are straight, usually only very short reaches, meandering, i.e. consisting of a series of bends of alternate curvature connected by short, straight reaches, crossings, or braided, i.e. the river divides into several channels which continuously join and separate. There is a large variation in the topography of Nepal. The rivers of Nepal originate in the lap of the Himalayas. Rivers at the initial stage have low discharge as the catchment is small and gradually increases moving downstream as the tributary contributes its flow. The rivers in upper reaches have rigid boundaries. The cross-section being small, the flow velocity is high. As the river reaches the plain, the velocity gets reduced and the floodplain increases and the meandering behavior becomes dominant. This may lead to the outflanking of hydraulic structures. So, various river training structures like a guide bank may be required for the regulation of flow. Social costs. Hydropower project becomes a barrier to the aquatic lives upstream and downstream. Due to large hydraulic structures, it changes the flow regime of the river. Large settlement of people is displaced. Hydropower project may affect 32. Particular social group of the community. Different religious places in conservation area may lie within the project area. Population displacement. The size of the reservoir created by a hydroelectric project can vary widely, depending largely on the size of the hydroelectric generators and the topography of the land. Hydroelectric plants in flat areas tend to require much more land than those in hilly areas or canyons where deeper reservoirs can hold more volume of water in a smaller space. Flooding land for a hydroelectric reservoir has an extreme environmental impact. It destroys forests, wildlife habitat, agricultural land, and scenic lands. And on the top, it causes large volume of population displacement. The displaced population may be provided with low compensation and may be obliged to live together in small areas with congestion. Change in lifestyle. Amongst other issues, dust and pollution top the list, and most people reported that it is a major problem that constantly affects the health and livelihood of the people. Roads are damaged by trucks carrying heavy loads. Drainage systems are spoiled while irrigation canals located along the road are hampered. Cultivation of major crops and vegetables are compromised due to an erratic supply of water. Drinking water may become scarcer than before, as it is drained to meet the needs of thousands of project staff and workers. The heavy trucks not only pollute the air, but the community as a whole because of the disturbing noise and commotion they create. Dust particles are visible during the daytime and are felt and experienced at night. It even dirties the dried laundry. The dust contaminates stored drinking water in the bucket and also food. Altars and offerings set with statues are also affected by the dust. Though most paddy fields are left fallow due to incessant ravages of the wild boar, another reason is the erratic supply of water for the field. Paddy cultivated with huge costs and hardships are lost to pollution and damages from construction activities. So, hydropower affects lifestyle of people. Global worry reservoir water is usually more stagnant than normal river water. As a result, the reservoir will have higher than normal amounts of sediments and nutrients, which can cultivate an excess of algae and other aquatic weeds. After the area is flooded, the vegetation and soil in these areas decompose and releases both carbon dioxide and methane. 33. Hydropower dams can contribute to global warming pollution. When a forest is cut down to make way for a dam and reservoir, those trees are no longer available to absorb the carbon dioxide added by fossil fuels. This can contribute to global warming. 2.5.2 Clean energy alternatives. Solar energy in one form or another. Solar power has been around for thousands of years. As a renewable source of free, green energy, technology has found a way of harnessing the sun's energy via solar panels. There are two types of solar panels: solar photovoltaic and solar thermal. Solar PV systems capture the energy from the sun's light and convert it into usable electricity, which we can use to power appliances, electric heating, or even run electric cars. Solar thermal panels use the sun's energy to heat water, which can then be used in taps, showers, and wet central heating systems. A popular choice in a growing renewable energy market, solar energy is free and means owners need to buy less energy from a supplier. Wind energy, an abundant source of renewable energy. The very air around us can be used to generate both heat and electricity. Air source heat pumps are becoming more and more popular, with homeowners and businesses looking to heat buildings with a renewable energy source. An air source heat pump includes a fan unit which sits outside where it can extract heat from the air, even in temperatures as low as -15 C. This natural heat can then heat rooms, air-to-air heat pumps, or produces hot water for radiators or underfloor heating, air-to-water heat pumps. Wind power is used as a means of generating electricity by wind turbines, which are capable of harnessing the power derived from the wind, converting kinetic energy into mechanical energy. A source of clean, green renewable energy. Favorable climate conditions in Europe means wind energy is a highly viable method for electricity generation. And none more so than in the UK, with 40% of all wind energy in Europe. Blowing over the country. Geothermal energy. Geothermal comes from the original Greek word geo, which means earth, so geothermal energy is derived heat from the earth. For example, steam energy or hot water that is generated by the earth can be used to generate energy. It is considered to be a renewable source of energy, as the water in the earth is replenished by regular rainfall and the heat used is regularly produced by the planet. Ground source heat pumps can be installed to harness the natural heat from underground using tubes of 34. Fluid buried outside the property. This fluid absorbs the heat from the ground so it can be used to heat your home and water. For properties situated near a lake, river, or stream, it's possible to install a water source heat pump. Pipes are submerged in the water and a heat pump pushes a heat-absorbing fluid through the network of piping. This fluid extracts natural heat from the surrounding water to be used in the heating system. 35.